Welcome to Emotional Sobriety, the next step in recovery, with Dr. Alan Berger and Tom Rutledge.
Found the first version of the Nutshells. It was my second book. It was called "If I Were They," and it's it's like they say.
I think I have a
I bet,
copy of that.
yeah. It's like it's very rare these
It's
days.
cool.
But I got
It's very
a
cool.
used copy of it. And I thought, man, there's still some of these in here that I use, so it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
very good.
Yeah,
There's a lot of good ones in there.
yeah.
There was a nutshell that Tom sent the other day that really struck me. He said, or it said, you cannot work both sides of the Serenity prayer. Choose, commit.
I write most all of these for myself when I need them, so it's something we all try to do sometimes.
But what does that mean to work both sides of the Serenity prayer?
Well, well, let me act like a therapist for a minute. What did it mean to you? Why did it strike you?
I suppose because I often operate with some degree of denial about what I can change, what I can't change, what my agency is, how long do I beat my fists against the concrete,
Mhm.
or am I folding too early? And I think I operate best in this world when I have those details straight,
Yeah.
and when I'm in some degree of alignment with,
Well,
serenity.
and so that's it. I think it's any of these things are just meant to be thought provoking, so they're whatever they mean to an individual. But for me, that's similar. That basically, um, we're most of the time we're talking to people about how don't get into black and white or all or none thinking, but things I control and things I cannot control. It's kind of an exception to that rule. It's like if I'm putting energy into something that I definitely do not control, like you or Alan or another person or situation, that's energy and attention that does not go to the other side of the Serenity Prayer, which is accepting and courage and moving on. So it's like I do think that it's amazing how often, to me, the idea has only I get ready to be 72. It's only in the last probably year that I've realized, oh, I know the Serenity Prayer. I've been saying the Serenity Prayer, but I'm not sure I've been really paying attention to the Serenity Prayer, what it really says. And it's like when we do get that, it streamlines everything. Because and I'll never accomplish this. This is not my goal because I'm not going to make it perfect. But if I can actually rearrange my allotment of energy so that my energy just goes to things I actually have some agency or some power over, I've got a lot of extra energy that I don't use. I have lived my life without because I got those wheels turning, those saboteurs in my head telling me to be worried about all kinds of things that I don't have any control about.
What jumped into my head was working the steps and, my first few years of sobriety. There were a couple loved ones that I had that weren't ready to talk to me yet or weren't ready to open up, their boundaries in order to ma have some kind of relationship with me. And that was a bitter pill to swallow for a little while, especially because, at a certain point, I started to look around at my life and things are getting better. And, I felt that I was getting better. And so why wouldn't you want to hang out with me and take my calls at this point? And anyway, when I was finally were able to work my way around to accepting that, like, I don't have control of the clock over this. And so the things I can change in that event are really work on the relationships that I have and work on my conduct as a person, and just be the kind of person that you know if maybe not those individuals that others would want to be with, and and then sure enough, I mean, some of the people that I lost eventually came back into my life, not all of them, but
Well,
the thing I couldn't change was,
Well, yeah,
those
also,
people.
what you're also doing there is part of this is something that I say to people, usually people early in recovery, but it can be at different times. But early in recovery, I say, listen, you have to be ready for the, what I call the addict's karma. It's like, you're going to know inside that this is different. You're
Mm.
going to know this is no, this is not all the times I've said this stuff before, but you got to remember you've said it before. You've done it before. You've promised things before. And it's like there's no reason people should trust you, until time goes on and you really demonstrate that. And that's the acceptance. That's that place I think we talked about it recently, the hard work of realizing that, we don't we for other people, we don't always wear the white hat. Sometimes we're the bad guy. And and a little bit coming into our recovery, we got to be able to say, like, I know I have not been trustworthy. It's like, and it makes sense. And you don't have to say this to them, but for you, it makes sense that you don't trust me yet. You know,
But boy, I'll tell you, Tom, that's right on. I mean, a lot of times the way that I've seen this manifest itself, like in couples worth, is if the guy has not developed a sense of humility yet, or the gal that's in recovery, it's so hard to own
usually
that.
the guy.
Almost, what's that?
It's usually the guy, sadly, for our gender.
Yeah. Yeah, because what happens is what my experience is people, whether it's a man or a woman, feel like they're losing something if they admit that.
Yes.
It- right? They're losing an image that they have tried to project in the world, which has really been an image to manipulate people
Mhm.
into seeing who they really are and what's really going on, right? It's that gaslighting, it's the art of deception that we become so good at when we're in addiction. And to be able to own that and stand in the face of that truth and reality is such a step in recovery. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think that we emphasize that enough, because when you do that, you're not you're losing that that image, but that image needs to get broken up. That image of who you thought you had to be okay hasn't worked. And a big emotional sobriety that we've been discovering now for some time is that emotional sobriety is living different.
Well,
Just living different.
what you get is even better, and I think I've learned this as much from
That's
Roger Andrews as anything. Is the idea is no, it's because and I think I do this joke all the time on this podcast, but it's a good reminder for me. It's one of my nutshells I have in the other room says I have to be careful not to be too proud of my humility. It's like which represents, but it really does reference the fact that no, actually, it's better that I can feel that I can feel good, in self-esteem based on the fact that I know I'm going to be wrong. I know I'm not going to be always the good guy, and I understand I certainly have been, and that what I value is my ability to do what you're talking about, which is just to simply acknowledge the reality.
Yeah, it's just owning our truth, man. And owning our truth is so critical in recovery. Like you said, Tom, there is a difference between false pride and what we could call even a humble pride.
Right.
I think that we could distinguish, and discern the difference between the two. That false pride is based on, being proud that you're this idealized self.
That's it too. Basically, what I've discovered along the way is, other people saying nice things about you is okay, but for you to actually acknowledge something that you feel good about or that you're good at, I'll go to other nutshells. It's like it's not only okay to acknowledge when you're good at something. We talk about false pride, like you're talking about, that just flies all over me when somebody's talking and they say, well, I'm just an alcoholic and like, get over yourself, man. What have you been doing in the program for this long? It's like, you should be getting better, and it's like you should be proud of that.
Well, I
It's a
like
bit, yeah.
the APA's definition of humility. As obviously they talk about it first as being a state of being humble. They go on to say, obviously, next thing that's obvious to me was the low focus on self. But then they go on to say something that I hadn't heard described before when somebody was defining humility in it. It's an accurate, not an over or underestimation of one's worth and success.
Love that. That's
And
exactly it. That's on point.
That's exactly
Yeah.
That's right on point,
Mhm.
man. And I never heard that before. And for my definition of the definition I was exposed to, never included that. So it was that thing. I'd be cautious of sharing anything I felt good about because I didn't want to look like I was all full of myself. But there is a difference, man. True self-esteem is acknowledging who we are and owning it.
Well, it's just
Good, bad, and the
it's
ugly.
healthy confidence, basically.
Definitely.
It's not arrogant to be confident about something that you're good at. And it's not an all or none. If I'm confident, if I say somebody says, "Well, tell me about yourself as a therapist," and I basically am letting you know that I believe in my ability to do that. I've been doing this for so long. I have a lot of confidence. Am I saying at any point in there that I never make any errors or I never miss any points? Absolutely not. Of course I do. That's part of what makes me confident in my competence is because I am good at acknowledging, finding my faults, but I'm also good as you two know. If you point it out to me, I can listen. I can accept it. That's a really big that's a I don't know if it's a skill or just a talent or something, but to be able to do that is so important.
Yeah, and by doing that spot check, you get better overall.
Always.
It just means a more detailed conversation with your peers.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I wonder if we might talk about, you said you had a client or, somebody you're working with, Alan, who relapsed.
If you've relapsed, let's talk to you. This program is for you today.
And let me just get us started this way. If I'm hypothetically putting myself in that place, one of the things I know that I historically, through knowing myself through the years, I relapse. I know one of the things I have to be is a healthy fear is immediately is falling into hopelessness, turning on myself in that way. I blew it. It's over. I thought I was doing good, but it turns out I'm not.
None of us can do good all the time.
But it feels like I'll just be that voice for a minute. But it feels like I blew it. I mean, forever, and I'm disappointed everybody. I don't see that there's any coming back from this.
Yeah, see, we talk about this all the time, is that it's the meaning we give to the experience we're having. That's the problem. It's not the problem itself, right? It's
Mhm,
and I'm not in any way, sugarcoating a relapse. They're dangerous. They cause serious damage to ourselves and to other people we care about and love. So we're not minimizing it.
mm-mm.
But what would is that, when you do what Tom just said, see, when you globalize, when you say that, look at what I've done, I've ruined everything.
It's over.
Buried, you are buried underneath that perspective. It is hard to dig yourself out. It's hard to be Sisyphus pushing that rock up the
Mhm,
mountain.
mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why, and even Bill Wilson said this, which I loved his perspective. He says, don't get too hung up on what you just did. He says, it happened for a reason. So get busy understanding it rather than beating yourself up and being ashamed and feeling guilty. All of that, Tom said something a minute ago. There is healthy guilt,
Mm,
shame. We
mhm.
got Dale about that a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
when he was programmed. And that's there. But the most important thing that we've found, and this is at the core of emotional sobriety, is maturing, is learning from our experience. You can't learn from your experience if you're beating yourself up. If you're burying yourself in a bunch of shoulds, man, I shouldn't have relapsed. I wasn't working a good program. Doesn't mean you weren't working a good program. It just means that more was needed in your program. It's not that your program was wrong. It's just that there was something missing that was important to add to what you were doing.
Let me add this, being the other in this position. It's like I just having that insight that I know myself well enough to know when I was in places like that where it's a version of poor me, and it's like I'm not going to be able to do it and that kind of stuff. It's and I'm not saying that's the way to start with anybody, but what I'm doing really, if I look closer at it, is I'm looking for a way to quit. I'm looking for a way to give up because this is it's hard. It's like it's easy. It's easier at that point. And again, I'm not saying I have that insight, but it's easier at that point or when I've been there to just think, no, I'm the worst of the worst, and I tried, and what a guy for or even what a guy for trying, but I just couldn't pull it off. It's like I'm really trying. I don't mean I'm not intending to, but I'm letting myself off the hook. See, because what Alan's saying when he talks about just the reality of that is like, you know, well, wait a minute, you didn't blow everything. You screwed up today. You know, it's like, and I think the other question always in that situation is to ask people, "What are you afraid of?" Because that'll take you down to the core of the wound. It's like, you know, and it's like, you know, and if I put myself in that place, I'm playing that role in my head. I'm going, "What am I afraid of?" I'm afraid I'm never going to be able to get this right. So we turn it around. So Alan says to me, I'm going to do your part too, Alan. It's like Alan says to me, of course you're not going to do it right. Not every time, not always. And it's like because we make mistakes so we can learn. That's our job.
That's it. That's our job, man. I'm
So
right with you, Tom.
so I'm
The other
supporting the
thing,
person, but I'm challenging the person.
right? The other thing that I've seen that happen, it depends on when the relapse happens. So I think it means different things at different times. Early on in recovery, it typically means that there's a reservation. And what that means is I have not accepted at an unconscious level that I am powerless. You see, when we accept something completely and totally, there's no longer any tension around the issue. We're completely relaxed. You could tell the degree of acceptance you have by the amount of relaxation. I don't feel anything in me about drinking or using it. There's no desire, there's no conflict, there's no part of me that says, let's go do this. Every now and again, you know, I like Tom's sort of tequila boy, right? Tequila boy
Right.
shows up and says, hey, come on, man, that beer might be good with it watching that football game. But that's rare, and
Well,
it doesn't
but
create.
see, but as long as I'm doing my job to keep that separate and I'm differentiated from
That's
that,
right.
it's like you know, it's just sort of a roll your eyes and go like, thanks, okay, just you know,
That's right. You move on. There's no tension. There's no pull towards it. But see,
because
if there's a
this is a hard
reservation,
one for people to get because how do we stay sober? It's no longer an option to not. It's no longer it is when somebody asks me about drinking or not drinking, using drugs or not using drugs, there is no as you're saying there's no debate. There it's
no
that's
debate anymore.
this and what you're saying is the early
Take
relapse.
over.
The decision is not sound. You got to go back
Not
in,
that.
and that's you know that's why I wrote that workbook called the Recovery Decision because that's what I found was in talking to lots of people through the years was missing in treatment programs is people
Yeah.
were took on good treatment programs, but the smart therapist would take the role of making the decision for you. Say you are an addict instead of also asking, "What do you think?" Because that's when we need you know we need the denial to show up in treatment so that we can help the client work with it. And to get to the place where Alan's talking about, where it's like, yeah, I remember those days, Tequila Boy. That's not now.
That's right. Not now. And see, when it doesn't happen, there's a part of us that thinks that, there'll come a day. Once I'm on my feet and I feel okay, I can't tell you. And this happens even later on in recovery. It happens a lot of times early in recovery, but I've seen people with a couple years go out because they think, I've been doing pretty good. A glass of wine with dinner, that can't hurt anything. Yeah, right.
Right.
And then, 2 weeks later, their wife or their partner is saying, I want a divorce. I mean,
No, but see, that's a good point.
craziness is back.
I have an eating disorder client right now who's just done that, Alan, exactly what you described. She made a decision, and it was a good decision to a degree because she'd been going back and forth in terms of not making a strong decision about her recovery from her eating disorder, and her eating disorder has proved to be a pretty dangerous thing. And it's but she made a decision that was based on condition, like we talk about. It was like uh, when my kids are older. Once you set the condition, the addiction inside you will change that. It's like what you said is there. We are going to do it. It is an option, and I just want
That's
people to
right.
know if it's an option, your disease is going to get you there. It's not an option, and that's what we have to support each other, and that's what we have to remind each other of.
Yeah. It can be a key to unlocking long-term recovery. And that's what we're talking about. It's like, how do we support ourselves, to create a strong foundation for our recovery? And Tom's given you
Yeah.
some really great, insight into what happens, what we have to do internally. right? How we need to organize ourselves to deal with, our the struggle we have with drinking and using.
Uh, so Alan, I wanted to ask about, before saying something, you said the reservation is a common, feature in early recoverers, and then for late for people who've been around for a little while, what's the thing that makes them go
Well,
out?
if sometimes that reservation doesn't get revealed until later too. So I don't just want to say
Right.
that it's black and white. But oftentimes later on in recovery, what we've seen when they've done research on this is that the second and third, the first major cause that we've been finding out with relapse is people having an experience they don't know how to cope well with. So they go back with dealing with it in the way that they've always done it, whether it's trauma is now the pain of it is surfacing and it's a call to be dealt with, and they don't know what to do with it, and they drink to shut it down. Whether sometimes it's somebody's struggling with depression or anxiety, and they can't get their handle on it and stuff like that. So then they drink to feel better, right? Because it's going to relieve them. Um, we know relationship problems will lead to relapse later on in life. So anything that we have not, and see, this is why emotional sobriety, it really is a call for emotional sobriety, because emotional sobriety gives us tools to deal with all of that. Chronic pain is another thing. A lot of people go out, Patrick, because they've got chronic pain. That's why I had to be so careful when I was having all
Yeah,
these surgeries and stuff, and especially when my femur broke and the pain was so bad. I tried OxyContin a couple times, and thank God my recovery took over. I didn't want to take it. I mean, that I just didn't like the feeling. And before, I would love a feeling like that. I didn't like it. You know, it's kind of like my version of, touching the drink and recoiling from it. I recoil
Right,
yeah,
at it.
here's just something I respect in you that we did as part of that too, but as not not overconfidence. You didn't like it, but the truth is, as addicts, we will do things we don't like that we're addicted to. We because we're addicted to it, and so the truth is, if you didn't make that decision, I don't like it, therefore not going to do this, or I'm going to do something different. You could have kept taking it until you liked it.
That's
It's like
exactly right.
you
And
don't
bringing up,
underestimate this guy. Yeah.
I'll tell you, Tom, you're bringing up something that I have been thinking about for a while. And Gabor Mate, the, author
I
of
love him.
In
Yeah.
the Elm of Hungry Ghost. Yeah, I just did a 1 day continuing education with him.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. He's talks about, his compassionate approach to helping people that are struggling with addiction, and he talks about it as a failure of self-compassion. Is That's how he talked about this for a long time. Is that there is something missing, that the way there's something missing in the way that we treat ourselves and what we're willing to do to ourselves without a second thought about the harm we're doing.
Yeah.
It never crosses our mind. I mean, we would not torture someone the way that we torture ourselves. We would not. I mean, think about a parent doing to a child what we do to ourselves. They'd be reported for child abuse. I mean, it's our relationship with ourselves. Now, we can get into talking about, well, what makes that so? And it's not too hard to understand that there's a part of us that just doesn't like us.
Mhm.
You know, that's what Dr. Horney said. She says the minute the false self is born, at that same time, the despised self is born.
Mhm.
And it's very interesting. There's these two selves, right, that come into existence at that point, because the should demands to be the way we think we should are so strong that that's the only possibility. Our world becomes a black and white absolute world. I'm either good or I'm bad. I'm either okay, I'm not okay. Like Tom said, I'm either got a chance or I'm hopeless.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
and see, there's nothing in between those two extremes. And see, that's the problem. Either I have this, and this is where false pride comes in. I'm behaving the way I should. I'm a good boy or a good girl. I'm doing the things I should. But as soon as I do something that steps outside, let's say being a good boy means to me never saying something that is going to upset somebody else. But let's say I get upset about something and I say something to somebody else and they get mad at me. I start hating myself because I said it. You see, that's what happens with this. So there's no possibility of what we talk about as accepting ourselves. We can't accept ourselves when we have those kind of rules.
It just occurred to me in terms of the stuff that I've really gotten from you of late, Alan, in terms of the danger of the conditional. Based on what you're saying, it popped into my head. Said that therefore, in terms of because what I'm doing with my emotional sobriety is either going to be supportive or not very strong to support my recovery from addiction.
Recovered, right on.
It's like the truth is, and I realize this is right at the top of my website at this point. The way you need to do that's not conditional is even on the days that I hate myself, which there are still those days, and that guy still lives there. And so it may not be 100%, but even on days that I hate myself, I don't drink. I don't use. It's not because that would be the condition. If I'm this depressed or if I feel this bad, and that's what I wrote on the beginning of my website, which is forget about self-love because that's a little too shaky for me.
Mhm.
Self-respect is definable. Doing what I say I'm going to do. Stepping up and being, so I can have a bad day. And if I'm learning something, that's what I base my respect on is if I'm learning something from this, then I have self-respect. I can even hate myself on that day and stay sober because I'm not basing it on that. Self-love's fine. Self-love's good. But it's for me, it's not constant. It's not a constant. And it's shaky at times still. So that can't be the measure of whether I'm going to be recovering or not. Some days are just
What is that
better than
Rocky line? I love that Rocky line that you've quoted from the movie Rocky many times. It's not how hard
Oh, it's not
you
how hard
hit.
it's how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and keep getting back up. That's right.
Keep moving
Yeah,
forward, he
keep
said.
moving
Just
forward.
keep
That's it.
moving
Yeah,
forward.
yeah.
Keep moving forward. See, I now, the way I've simplified this idea of differentiation is about moving forward. That's the life force. It's just
Beautiful.
moving
Yeah.
forward. You got to keep moving forward. That's what emotional sobriety in a nutshell. Here's another nutshell
Mhm.
wisdom. Emotional sobriety is about moving forward.
Forward. Yep.
Is no matter what, moving forward.
Right, because the information we get when we're stuck in some way is that that tells us we don't have to we don't have to know what it is exactly in that moment, but we have to say, okay, that's a problem, and the problem is I'm missing something.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
And probably that means for me, probably means I need to talk to you guys or somebody else to get use the two heads are better than mine approach.
Yeah, I do want to stop and really put a shout out to all of the armed forces, all of our men and women that are in
Amen.
harm's way today, because there are many people. And regardless of how you feel about the war that we're involved in, they are out there obeying orders and they put themselves in harm's way for us. And they are in their way defending our country. So please take a minute and put them in your prayers. And a specific shout out to Staff Sergeant Catherine Preston, who's in Tel Aviv at the embassy. And she's now, in the next few days, going to be doing patrols because of the threat is so high in terms of what's just happened and how this is escalating very, very quickly. So, God bless all of you. You're in our thoughts, you're in our prayers, and may our love be, somehow a blanket that protects you all.
And
Beautiful.
those in harm's way on the other side too. I want to extend my love to and sympathy.
Yeah. As soon as we humans just to figure out that we shouldn't be killing each other, then things are going to make a big turn in the right direction.